Hello, everyone. Today, I would like to talk a little bit about spiritual warfare. It doesn't really matter what you believe in or disbelieve. Spirituality, natural spirituality, true spirituality is very, very simple. So, a lot of people nowadays talk about spiritual attacks, spiritual warfare, whether it's in Christianity, in Muslim world, in Buddhist world, in whichever world. So basically, we are dealing with a phenomena where most of the people experience, so to speak, issues, and people discover spiritual warfare, as they say, after they have been, praying more or trying to be more connected to the higher reality. The real warfare, though, is happening because it is basically within them. It's a phenomenon where you are trying to cultivate higher centers prematurely. Your lower centers kind of try to resist. And this resistance is natural because everything within this creation tends to get into a balanced state. Soul or higher being does not understand your human language. You want to experience wealth, you want to live in a relationship for the rest of your life, or you want to buy a house. Your soul doesn't speak that language. Your soul understands frequency, energy. And whenever you tend to get into imbalanced states, consciousness itself tries to bring it so strongly into your face so that you would let go, so that you would refine that aspect or dissolve that pattern, and yet you still hold on to that pattern or aspect for dear life. And so you experience suffering. Suffering is not something that anyone imposes. It is the individual and the collective consciousness purgation process that we all experience here in this, at this point of the cycle, which is the lowest point of the cycle, where we dove into the matter by almost disconnecting with a higher consciousness. So our awareness is mostly dispersed throughout the matter and exists and feeds meaning exists within the matter and feeds this matter. So that which we are, which is eternal life, is now dispersed within the projected reality. And so we lose our life. So the consciousness is trying to, address that by showing us that what we do on a subtle level through our physical reality, through the physical body. And what happens is that we are diseased. So disease is not natural. Premature death is not natural. We've accepted aging, disease as some natural phenomenon, but these are not natural phenomena. These are unnatural, or basically diseased states of consciousness. So consciousness in a dispersed, projected state is in a state of disease. It's a disease of consciousness. It's a mental, emotional, spiritual disease, which of course translates into the body. So when we go into all these different ideas of healthy living, we don't realize that health is balance. And when there is imbalance between the creative manifestation of life throughout the body, there will be disease, or in other words, imbalance. When we use or overuse certain, creative energy through only certain centers of our existence on the subtle and physical levels, we create imbalance. So consciousness, our individual soul, understand the languages of balance, alignment. It understands aligned, misaligned, balanced, imbalanced. It doesn't understand anything else. And so when you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, first of all, concentrate on certain areas of life and lose your life energy, vital energy towards or to these aspects, you start draining your energy body. And that draining process eventually manifests on your physical body as aging, and then as disease, and then as actually rotting alive and decomposing. So coming back to the warfare, because it's very important to lay the foundation, how this warfare originates. So the warfare originates from within. According to Siddha teachings, all gods and goddesses are within. These are our openings within our energy structure, so to say, a subtle body. These are openings to the natural reality, to the natural world, which is governed by different forces. And so we have within our energetic structure, we have the connection to these forces, but we are not aware of this connection, or maybe only partially aware, but most of the people are not aware. And so when you start cultivating maybe certain qualities, and you start, suppressing other qualities which are of negative nature, these qualities require energy and they will retaliate. And this is all happening from within. They retaliate. You start having suggestions within. Again, we can call them demons, we can call them whatever, but they're all within us, within our consciousness. Consciousness is the collective level. Physical body is kind of within the collective, but it's still individual. And so what happens is that all these qualities, when you try to run away from them, escape, suppress them, eventually they gain power and they draw you with a stronger force, because you focus now only on positivity, and it creates an imbalance within creation. You are the creation. Your body is the world. When you try to escape from the world, remember that as you're in the body, you are the world. And as that seed of the body exists in your consciousness, you cannot escape from it. You can change it, but it will manifest in a similar manner again and again. Because the seed is there, the seed of corruption, the seed of this dimension exists within your consciousness. And so where is the enemy? The enemy is always within. So now when we look at the physical symptoms that most of the people talk about, for example, they have burps, yawning, different kinds of attacks, pressure, headaches, the nervous system doesn't function well. So all of these attacks are but impossible if the person, let's say, is awakened to the higher being, is aligned with a higher being, and is, before they have awakened and aligned, they also did some work, which is purifying their body in a specific way, getting rid of parasites. Parasites are of different kinds. They can be worms, they can be fungi, they can be different chemicals and pathogens that we receive from our imbalanced environment, man-made reality. Again, people ask me what man-made reality is. It is like a tumor in the natural world. So the world does not pose any harm as the natural world. But what causes harm is the man-made reality, which is within this world, which is like a tumor in this world, which doesn't exist according to the natural laws. And then it becomes a victim of the natural laws, because sooner or later natural laws take over and destroy what is of nature of disharmony, which is of antimatter. So man-made reality is created of antimatter. And so it harms everything that is of the natural. And what is of the natural is the body itself. So it will definitely harm the body. So when we hold all these different pathogens, so even if we hold, let's say, certain natural elements like metals and all, but in excess, all of that will create imbalance in the bodily function and will drain it. So everything that is of a foreign nature in the body will become kind of like a vessel of different frequencies. You have to remember, everything you experience in the physical reality is also on the subtle reality. So everything in the natural world, like plant, food, item, element, is a transmission of a specific energy of the natural world. And it will affect the body. Every food is a portal. Every drink is a portal. Everything you ingest, absorb, this way or that way, is a portal. It opens up a portal from your physical, supposedly physical body into the subtle, because everything you experience on the physical level is, as I said, exists also in the natural world on the subtle level. Now, when you ingest artificial food, which is not fit for human consumption, but it is labeled as fit for human consumption, which is pretty much 95% of everything we experience and see. Every object you experience, what do they transmit, first of all? They transmit death. Death means they don't carry life. Everything which is produced from nature, out of nature, let's say wood, it carries that consciousness, meaning life. Once it was alive, it carries life. It has that meaning vibration, right? Metals, whatever is found in nature. But whatever is not found in nature is man-made, like plastic, for instance. Plastic is a human transmission, meaning it has such a limited energy potential. It's dead matter. So antimatter, I call it, right? And please, fools and idiots, do not repeat these terms when you haven't realized that within yourself. Thank you. So for those who are interested in how this warfare happens, you have to look within. And you have to realize that even though your soul wants to ascend, it wants to open itself up to the higher frequencies and higher realms, spheres of manifestation, when you carry in your body all these different pathogens, whether of natural origin or unnatural origin, they will be transmitting or impeding your process of so-called spiritual ascension. They'll cause imbalance. And so they need to be eliminated. They need to be eliminated from the body. The presence of parasites, for example, when your body suffers malnutrition, when your body suffers malabsorption, when you have different cysts and the doctors tell you, oh, it's just a cyst, it's a tumor, it's some sort of a formation. Very often these tumors, cysts, and formations come from the presence of worms or some pathogens that are enveloped either by cholesterol or in order to prevent inflammation. But eventually when it's chronic and it doesn't go anywhere, it becomes a solid formation. Or it's a cyst that is created by the presence of certain type of parasites, worms, which are present in certain meats, or even which could be found on vegetables, fruit, unwashed, which could be found anywhere, which could be also passed on from one person to the other through, intimate interaction or otherwise, other type of interactions. Certain parasites lay eggs, and if you enter that cycle where you contracted parasites, the eggs, those eggs or larvae can actually form something like cysts or actual cysts where worms try to preserve their offspring or next generations. They procreate very fast. They can also travel through the bloodstream. A lot of people who suffer irritable bowel syndrome, different digestive disorders, are most probably infected by different types of worms. And there are hundreds of types of worms. They were known to our ancients, but unfortunately our current medicine is so advanced, does not speak much about it. We rather remove certain cysts and formations without even exploring how did they originate to begin with. And so then we have other pathogens, like those which are produced by other parasites, for example, dust mites or mold or candida. And of course, you have to also realize that most of these parasites are already from birth inherited by us from our mothers. And so if we eat certain foods of, toxic nature, or we increase certain type of foods with, let's say, sweet taste or other acidic taste or salty taste, they can promote the overgrowth of certain parasites that were dormant. So most of the things are already within. So when we talk about death, we speak about kind of not only conscious death when you are disconnected from the higher reality and you're not aware of that, but we're speaking about physical death because of that, because you are eaten alive from within. So all of these pathogens are within the body, and they gradually eat you alive. And so you lose your body. The point of spiritual awakening is to reverse this process, because when you become connected to the higher reality and you gain access to the truly higher frequencies on a permanent basis, you become aware of all that. And you realize that all these demonic and angelic powers are within you, and they operate through your through your microbiome, through your biological system. And when your body is clear, that which is of low frequency demonic energy cannot possess you, and possession happens on the level of thoughts and emotions. So it can't possess you because there's no host. Now, how does the warfare happens? Those forces possess you through that fungi, through that mold or yeast or worms that are present in your body, or even if those are chemical pathogens, they can also become a doorway or a portal, like something that is found in vaccines, for instance. So any type of element, as you remember I said, is a portal. So everything becomes a portal to that type of energy or frequency that it carries. And it can be minuscule. It can be like a literally very, very small on the physical level element, but it has entrance to something bigger on the collective level. So whatever we call as pathogens on the physical level, they are very, very small, but they are the entrances or the portals to the demonic forces within the collective. And so worms are too. These are different energies, energy portals. Worms are different energy portals to lower type of vibrations. Usually they affect mental health. So most of the people, from my knowledge and insight, and I'm not a doctor, I'm trying to diagnose anyone here. I'm just sharing a perspective and knowledge that I've luckily got to know. So most of the people with mental illness are possessed, but the host is within, and this host is usually worms and fungi. Mold is the top one that creates mental sickness in most of the people. Now, if you look at our current society and system, you see that mold increases, or any fungi increases, in highly radioactive environment, and our Wi-Fi, internet, 5G, etc., are promoting the overgrowth of fungi in the body, besides the fact that we are craving for sugar. And it's another sign of the presence of parasites, and all our food is just sugar, one way or the other. So it is something to ponder on. But when we experience these attacks are from within: migraine pains, neurological seizures, epileptic seizures often. And I don't buy into genetic origins. You can argue with me, and you can die and rot as well, because you just yourself neglect that very fact. And people who want to live long have long ago realized this truth. That's why, for instance, many true spiritual schools, schools of alchemy, schools of perfection, or I don't know, spiritual evolution, whatever you call them, they don't even need to be tagged. People knew about worms, about parasites, and so that's why they spend so much time purifying their body on all levels and closing the doors to these clusters of negative consciousness within the collective by simply eliminating the host within. So if you eliminate the host within, you stop that warfare. You become tranquil, and you stop anxiety, restlessness. So now lots of people talk about spiritual awakening, and yet what you're awakening to is your pathological patterns, corruption, limitations, and which you don't have the tools to eliminate. And then you are like, yes, I'm experiencing this meditative state, but yet your body is still drained. You're suffering this spiritual warfare, because you have to realize that a lot of your thoughts, ideas, belief systems are there because of the presence of the pathogens and parasitic energy, which hosts these thoughts, which affects your spiritual, mental, emotional states. It is proven that many types of parasite can aggressively affect your mental, emotional states, can make you, can push you into psychotic episodes, etc. Because they are the host of lower frequency. Now you're trying to ascend, you're trying to, cultivate higher frequency. There will be resistance from within. So you can blame whoever, and of course you can talk about, black magicians and all. They just operate on the same level. They cannot do anything to you unless you have a host. So they always try to poison you by putting that host into you through food, through drink, whatever, incantations, or there are other ways. But you have to realize that your system has to be protected and intact if you really want to evolve, and it has to be pure. And if all these different parasites, they become on a subtle level, they are ideologies, belief systems. So once you rid yourself of these hosts, you realize the truth beyond all these different limitations and limited beliefs. You rise above it. You absorb that. You do understand everything exists within the collective, but you as a being don't need to be a part of it. Then it's called healing. Then you overpower. Then you win the war, because you realize that these beings are also frequencies. That's what I'm saying. And you have to watch if you want to know more about it or kind of expand on that. I've recorded certain videos on parasites, on paranormal parasites, and how they affect our spiritual evolution. Basically, they resist it. So when we speak about undercurrents within, it means it just doesn't mean just on the physical level. It actually doesn't exist on the physical level. It exists on a subtle level. And so, but it becomes a part of your physical existence, and these emotions and thoughts become so like turmoil, like such a big deal, and you go through all these ordeals because the host is there. So you can be hacked any moment. The video is called about, I think it's something like, are you hacked? So yeah, most of the people are hacked. And when you talk about getting rid of matrix, going above it. What are you talking about? If you are drained from within, because you have to realize that you're not ascending matrix, so to speak, on the physical level. The physical being will evolve naturally, but it will still, there will be a gap, a kind of like a bridge between your subtle and your physical, as long as those hosts, the pathological, pathogenic, inimical hosts exist. So they will be draining you. No matter what you realize on the mental level, you're escaping somewhere, you're thinking of life, that life is this and that. On the physical level, you will be drained. You will still age, you will still suffer, you will still, your focus will be continuously taken downwards, meaning towards your mundane, towards those pains, towards those discomforts. And so it's not ever about even the diet, what you eat or what you, yes, certain foods, they can be contaminated and they can contribute to that. They can create more infestations. I'm not saying about that. Frequency of food intake, quantity of food, these are just like very, very minor factors in terms of health. Health begins from consciousness. When you're aligned with a higher consciousness, you shed light on all the diseased, imbalanced aspects of reality, and all the diseases flee. Because you find the way to eliminate parasitic energy. There are specific ways, there are specific herbs. Again, these herbs are portals to the subtle reality. So when you take these herbs or mixtures or some kind of other substances, they eliminate pathogens and thus close the portals to that negative energy within the collective. So when you do that refinement on the physical level as well as the refinement on the subtle level, or you start, let's say, with the physical, you will see the corrupt patterns. You will recognize them. You realize, oh yeah, I was actually corrupt. So when you start eliminating worms, fungi from or heavy metals or other pathogens from your body, you start being by default tranquil, natural, balanced. And even though there can be attacks because your shadows or your relative shadows or from your bloodlines and ancestry, all these corrupt and negative energy, it will try to come. But if the host is no longer there, you will not feel it. You will not be impacted. You will not experience any, anxiety or restlessness as most of the people experience. And now we call it mental illness. Well, it's the illness of consciousness, when consciousness obscures itself, punishes itself to the point of oblivion, where it just loses its connection with a higher awareness. So obviously, life is not vibrating through the cells. And all these negative energies, pathogens, just eat it from within, eat the flesh from within. When you experience spiritual attacks or this sort of spiritual warfare, it is bi-spiritual. It is not spiritual because you feel physical symptoms. And yet you say, yeah, but there's nothing doctors can't identify on X-ray, MRI, CT scans, nothing shows. Yeah, it can't show because, mold is so small, pathogens are so small, they are in the blood circulation. But every little element is the host, is the entrance, is the portal into the system. So it is something to ponder. And, a lot of people just entertain themselves with spirituality on the intellectual, mental levels, but physically they are just contaminated. So there is no alignment. What kind of spirituality are we talking about when the physical body is restless? You have pains, you have discomfort, you have burps, yawnings, all this stuff. There is contamination. There is some sort of an infection going on or chronic inflammation caused by these pathogens, and the body is trying to try to balance it by sending those elements that the body possesses, immunity possesses, sends cholesterol to envelop those wounds, but yet these wounds are on created by the presence of parasites, because parasites can go through the walls of intestines, they can settle in some organs or around these organs. They don't need to settle necessarily in the organ. Maybe they can't enter the organ, but they can damage, they can create a wound. And so most of the doctors, unfortunately, do not look at it this way. They think, okay, if I change a diet, yes, perhaps if you change a diet, maybe you don't give them food, and so they might weaken in your system, but they still do exist. And they still might affect you on a mental and emotional level, even if you don't have physical symptoms. And mental and emotional level is one of the most important, because it becomes a stumbling rock in your spiritual evolution. It is like a block between your physical and your spiritual. So how to deal with this warfare? There are certain herbal preparations, but again, people take them for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, and that's it. 3 months, it's not enough. For some people, you need to understand the cycle of parasitic reproduction. You have to observe it exactly through this phenomenon you call as psychic attacks or spiritual warfare, because these are the moments when your parasites procreate or they need more sustenance. So you start having congestion of nervous system, headaches, a stiffness of the neck. You feel anxiety, you feel some kind of restlessness, your digestive system doesn't work. It's because at that point, there is something important going on for these creatures. And so when you realize that, you understand how to adjust your herbal or whatever medication that you can take in order to eliminate these beings. And again, it has to be something natural, because if you take chemicals, you may damage your system, and you may also damage the positive microbiome that exists there in your gut or in your system, or you may damage other systems without knowing. So it has to be natural solutions. It's also about lifestyle. If you have parasites, you will have difficulty sleeping, you will have nightmares, you will have issues going to bed on time. When you don't have them, you'll start waking up early. Naturally, you will have a lot of energy. You won't feel fatigue. You won't have anemia, magnesium, B12, and other deficiencies. You will absorb D vitamin properly, naturally from the sun. You won't have cold or hot shivers or some flashes in your body. You will not have half of actually more than half of the things or symptoms that we know as inflammatory signs, or the signs of some sort of diseases on whichever stages they can be. So it's very important to remember that whatever we eat just either feeds our system or feeds mostly our parasites, and then a little bit our system just for sustenance. That's why the draining happens and the aging takes place. So health is a very simple thing. It's a simple science where you realize that it's all about consciousness. It's all about consciousness. It's about the way you are able to accommodate higher frequency. But when there is a presence of pathogens, the higher frequency cannot be accommodated, because the lower frequency will be constantly, like hijacking your experiences of natural being. hijacking, causing you torment, self-doubt, depression, mental torment, emotional torment, will make you unclear and make silly choices. Silly meaning that those which lead you to, suffering, basically, that you thought you were going to get one thing and you get something else. So there will be no balance. Your presence will not vibrate balance, no matter how much you want to pretend or say that you are spiritual in the hypocritical sense. But you can't fool consciousness. The presence is that which emanates what you are. So, and when you're going through the struggle, you might feel that it's a never-ending story, and you constantly have this warfare, and these pathogens are there taking over. It's a very hard battle to conquer, but it is possible with determination, with simplicity, with humility, and with proper guidance. I wish everyone who watched it, who raised their awareness about the subject, to gain that clarity, awareness, and higher guidance. Your own being can guide you if you have enough humility to open up to that higher grace and to receive that knowledge from within. The purer you wish to be on a soul level, when you recognize that even smaller aspect of your soul, which is very pure, and you hold on to it, it will take you out of whatever warfare, whatever animosity, whatever hard situations, ordeals, etc., etc. All this drama that people experience, all these different aspects of reality are there and are valid when you are the host of this energy, of these pathogenic elements of natural, unnatural nature. And so all these psychic attacks, depletion, fatigue, and pains of unknown nature, like fibromyalgia, migraine pains, all are the signs of parasitic energy, most probably worms and fungi. So there were some people in this world who developed different techniques to change frequency, to remove these parasitic energies by using certain devices to increase frequencies. But yet it's so important to do this work in a wholesome manner, where you observe subtle patterns consciously, because if you're awakened, you will observe them, you will know them, as well as you understand how it all works through your system and what role do these parasites play in this whole situation. And so once you're free from parasitic energy, you realize the enemy has always been within, and whoever affected you from outside, as if you thought, they only were able to hijack your system or hack your system or take your energy only because you contain that host within. So once you identify the enemy and you find the solution for it, you can experience true tranquility and contentment that are the foundation for true spiritual awakening, expansion, evolution, and, ascension from this physical dimension. So thank you very much. If you have questions, very welcome. You can post those questions. And if you enjoy the content, you may appreciate it by subscribing and by watching other videos. Thank you very much. Be blessed, be protected, and be aware.